I'm bringing me a sourdough starter and we're gonna name it my son's name.
There you go, so you can still take care of him while he's away.
Yes.
Made a point
Yes.
to
My
make sure
son's
you
like,
got
Mom,
that.
your humor's not. She made it by hand. But yes, it's
That looks
that art I've been afraid of.
Yeah, I thought about that too, then I broke into the Girl Scout.
My daughter had one for, I don't know, 6 months
Got
or 8
'em out in
months,
your
and she
garage, I've
fed
got 'em
it
in
all
the
the time, but she never
freezer
made
thinking that I
anything,
won't
and then
eat
she
'em.
left for college and it sat in the fridge.
I was sitting there and feeling sorry for myself in the rain and
Total
remembered
art.
I
I
had,
know,
Mhm.
so the park made us
so I was just gonna have like one,
Something cute like
half
that.
Yes,
package.
yes, home.
Not that that was
It went really
done.
well.
That's the way it is.
She had a good time.
Yes. Luckily the packages are smaller nowadays.
Yeah, her last final was April 30th, so she was out really early.
Got in there to turn that.
Yeah.
That's
Debbie, are you ready?
I get these things.
Mr. Bell, are you ready?
Our first day of classes was the last Monday or Tuesday of
And they have watermelon.
Yeah.
And then-
Yeah, Emily moves into her.
Are we ready to
normal
call the
night
meeting to
time.
order?
It's a little bit early.
Should have started thinking earlier than a month.
It's just a little thing to care for.
Lots of stuff going on this morning. Debbie, are you ready? Good morning, I'd like to call the meeting, the leadership team meeting to order this morning. It is Monday, June 3rd, and it is 9:03. Do we have any announcements and introductions for this morning? Well, if there's no
My team was telling me
I
there
think
was
that's
an
somebody's
issue
laptop
that
that
there
is
was
muted.
not.
So if there are no announcements this morning, we'll get into our discussions. The first item on the agenda is the Gallup Employee Satisfaction Survey and the PSU survey status. I think we're close to a little over 30% complete so far. The surveys will be open for 2 weeks. There should be 2 survey links. The cutoff on the employee file was April 16th with the intended launch date earlier in May. So we do have a handful of new hires, and thank you, Jeff, for pulling all of those for me. I greatly appreciate it. But if there's employees other than new hires that might be missing from their file due to a name change or something of that sort, if you could please send me an email. Dawn, I think I have a couple of employees from you already. We will add these names to the file and we could have a one-time upload. So I'm gonna wait until probably Wednesday, maybe Tuesday if I don't get any emails, to upload this data. And so those new employees that were added to the file will get a survey link. Anything else? That's more the technical parts for me.
I just got an update from Paul, which I'd asked for at PSU, which says we are at 41% as of this morning for the PSU survey. So, and Jeff, you worked with Paul and others where it went not to their inbox, but to some other folder in their email, is that correct? Because it didn't get stopped by our firewall or our spam filter, it just got spit into some strange folder.
Yeah, so I sent out the information to the county and I got a couple people that that noted problems. One was one that had an incorrect email address that Paul had already fixed, and I think there were 2 that were newer employees who I let know something would be coming.
Okay.
But yeah, no other issues reported.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate you sending that out countywide from an email that hopefully all people would look at and realize, oh, this is Jeff, I should look. Okay, so we're trucking along.
Any other questions about the survey? Once the survey closes mid-June, we'll get the results from Gallup similar to what we did last year. And then we'll be scheduling meetings to go over the results, talk through how to have a state of teams meeting similar to what we did the prior year. One of the things Gallup made available to us this year, if we'd like to do it, is if you would like one-on-one counseling with Gallup, that is available for a fee. So perhaps you want help preparing your state of the teams, perhaps you have an employee that or a supervisor that would benefit from understanding how to lead that meeting. There is additional help for those who would like to lean into that Gallup survey and dig into some of that information and find out things that you could do to improve those numbers or collaborate with your department on how to improve those numbers over time.
Jody, is the PSU survey portal open for about the same time frame as the Gallup?
Yes.
Yeah, they're both open for the same time window.
So last year, I think we had 80% Gallup participation. And I'm just speaking up to remind leaders that last year we reminded people, we sent out multiple emails, we leaned on you to ask your staff to please participate in the survey. Especially for departments where people aren't normally sitting in front of computers reviewing their email. So particularly parks and public works and the sheriff's office, and we really hope to get at least 80%, if not more, again this year, because the intention of asking the exact same questions a year later is to see if we've improved. But if we have less participation, we won't be able to measure that other than to perhaps assume that people are even less interested. So we really, really want to encourage people to do it. And as a reminder, it's entirely anonymous, so people, people can feel safe in their responses. The responses come back in the department aggregate, so we know how much department participation there is, unless it's a very small department, and then we don't even know that. So people are safe in their anonymous responses, but we really need to get people's responses in order to know how we're doing. So please encourage your staff.
And the 80% number Commissioner Bell was able to achieve last year, again, that's a great number, and I'd like to continue to strive to keep up with that pace to, like she said, repeat. So we can see if we are improving or if things are changing within the demographics of the employees. Any other Gallup questions? It's gonna be a super quiet meeting this morning. I had sent out an email regarding NACO, the High Performance Leadership Academy, a few weeks ago. I had about 6 employees that were interested in participating. There are some individuals that have already done the NACO Academy, but if we can get to 10 who are interested in either being in the August session or the winter session, because some of your work is very seasonal and you're like, summer's out. If you enroll in either one of those, the county can get that 10 discount. And so this week I'll send that out, a sign up link for the same group. And I sent it to HR managers and not just the leadership team. So we did encourage the leadership team to, get support from your supervisor before you sign up. But if there's additional folks that would like to go, I'm gonna send the NACO sign up link. Just sign up and that will hold our spot. But you could also be the August or the winter session. I think it starts in January, because some folks said I just don't have time in the summer. You could sign up now, save that, reserve your space and get the discount.
I wonder if people in the room who've taken it would be willing to talk for a minute about your experience with it. I know Jeff has taken it, and I don't know who else in the room has.
I took it.
Great.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's definitely more of a kind of a 30,000 foot view philosophical approach to, leading people and pushing ideas forward. But it was, I really enjoyed it because it's, clearly it's been refined and, retooled over the years for totally online delivery, and I enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I got quite a bit out of it. I had Andrea take it as well, and she really, we had good discussions about it as she took it. I definitely think it's something that everybody should do if you haven't.
Sean?
No, I agree with both of them. It was very, like Matt said, 30,000 foot level, but it was the being able to reach back out to your group that you were in, even afterwards, and being able to go back in and go through some of the sessions when you think of something that pops up has been really helpful.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I know Rachel went through it and I've talked to her about it several times and she thought it was a great experience also.
Does anyone online have anything to add about their NACO experience?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of work. I made it through part of it. I was unable to finish. My needs here at work just didn't allow me to spend that much time on it. So a lot of things I've taken from previous leadership. I thought it was the relationships that I was seeing that were developing there were good. A lot of the philosophical things are, directly implementable. So it's even if you've had the leadership classes in the past, it's a good reminder. So it's like, oh yeah, I can remember some of that. I need to go ahead and re-implement it. But unfortunately, I just was unable. Just way too much time for me to spend on the program.
It looks like Sarah enjoyed that as well. Thank you for your comments, Sarah.
So to Chris's point, does anybody want to talk about how much time it took? I know it's a 12-week course. And what would it have been on an average, a couple hours a week or?
I think probably 3 to 4 hours a week. I mean, if you really wanna sit down and watch the videos and try to absorb the content, it's, 3 to 4 hours a week, I would say.
Well, thank
Great
you.
information.
I'll get that registration link out for those that would like to attend. We are looking at a supervisor 101 training this fall. Again, recognizing summer is really difficult for many folks to attend. But sometimes people want that more compliance driven piece and we thought Boley could come over and lead that. It may be a day or 2 days when you do that full supervisor 101. So trying to figure out how we could condense that. A 2-day training is a lot for all of our managers to come out of. So we're just trying to figure out what that schedule might look like. Can we get it in a full day and still be comprehensive of what we need to know? And then Gallup also has some services that are available as we go through the state of the team. So if we look at training that might be available for supervisors or folks that are wanting to, work in a different way with our employees or try to connect in a different way, there's a couple of different paths that we have coming up.
And I would just say, I took the Boley training a few years ago. I had my whole staff, my leadership staff at CARE, we all took it together and it was really, really helpful. Because for those of you that don't know, Boley is the Bureau of Labor and Industries. And so it really dives deep into what we need to understand about state law and compliance and the things that really, at the end of the day, have to drive many of the decisions that we make. So it's a great answer to why do we do it that way? If you're looking at policies and decisions that are being made at the county level and wondering, why do we do that? A lot of that's driven through the Bureau of Labor and Industries work. And it's a great opportunity because they have, as many state agencies do, they have an educational training side, and then they have an actual compliance side. And they do they're like, there's a solid wall here. You can ask any questions you want at this training, you can reveal that you didn't know and it's all fine. It's totally separate from the compliance side, but it definitely sets you up to be ready should anyone want to take a claim to Boley related to how we are supervising, managing, paying them. We're ready because we've all understood the rules and such. So it's a great training and I would encourage, if we're able to get it here, to have everyone take it. Really made a difference in my team's understanding.
I've got a question. I've taken the supervisor 101 training that CIS offers. Is the Boley training a deeper dive than what CIS does? Okay.
Yeah, I felt that the supervisor 101 training from Boley was more about soft skills than the compliance piece.
You mean from CIS?
Oh, yes, from CIS, I'm
Okay.
sorry. We had one over at the port and it was more like, how do you engage? Are you having check-ins? Not an employee can't skip their break and go home early. And that's more the Boley nature is digging into ADA and leave and FMLA and wage and hour and those types of details that kind of roll back up to our handbook. But those are the laws that make this in our handbook. So
Okay, thank you.
Anything else about NACO or upcoming training opportunities? I'm burning through this so the rest of the meeting could be everybody else's. We are working on a notice for Oregon paid leave and OFLA. There are some changes coming July 1 under the statute. And it sounds really scary on how it's gonna be worded. If employees are using Oregon Family Medical Leave, that's the Oregon version, not the federal version. When they implemented Paid Leave Oregon, they had a lot of items that were tracked concurrently, either in Paid Leave Oregon, which is the state paid benefit, and OFLA, and they were tracked concurrently. And so through feedback sessions and learning, there's many things that are in the OFLA statute that's going to be pulled out, and you either get Paid Leave Oregon or FEMLA. There's not very many things in FEMLA that is not also covered under OFLA, but they're going to just take it out and put it into Paid Leave Oregon. That does mean they have to pay, sign up for the paid disability program to get serious health conditions for themselves, others. It's just removing the concurrency of the two, if that makes sense. But when you read it, it says you're not eligible for OFLA anymore. And that could be concerning for our employees. So we want to try to make sure that we write it in a way that's meaningful. There is still things that are covered under OFLA, like sick child leave and some school closure leave that might apply, but it will change. And we just want to make sure that when that notice goes out, that supervisors are aware of the meaning of that. It's not that protected leave is no longer covered, it's just what bucket it's being tracked in. We are working through some potential language in a future policy of when paid leave could be used and when paid leave cannot be used. There is consideration in a future policy of saying, you know, you can only take up to 100% of your benefit and you have to show us your statement so we can get you to 100%. But if you're watching the news right now, there could be 6 to 8 weeks before leave is paid. So trying to decipher the paths in the policy, if we say you can't use your available paid leave while you're waiting for it, an employee could potentially go unpaid for that time if the Oregon Employment Department is not able to pay claims timely. So if there's concerns one way or another over that policy decision, it's something that we're considering, it's something that we're looking at. But I'm leaning towards allowing employees to take leave because saying, I'm sorry, you have to wait until Oregon can get it together. Seems like a really difficult conversation when an employee might not be able to pay rent. I mean, granted, they'll get it eventually, but we're seeing almost 4 weeks on average of every paid leave Oregon claim. So as that notice comes out and we work through that policy and those determinations, just know we've been weighing that very, very heavily. And it's not an intention to be frivolous with county funds. It is until Oregon can pay those claims timely. We're concerned the hardship that it would put our employees in should we do something different.
And the counter to that is then they will actually get double paid for that time, because what will happen is when you apply for paid leave Oregon, when it starts, you're gonna get paid, and we may have already paid employees. So then employees would essentially get double pay for that window of time, however much leave they took, and then paid also by the state of Oregon. And so I think that's the tension and the concern, right, is that that employees would get double paid for a window of time. And then they have used their leave up potentially, and they won't have it for a time when Oregon Family Medical Leave isn't gonna pay them. They won't have their leave anymore because they used it to get started. So it just then it becomes incumbent upon employees to be thoughtful. If you're getting double paid and you've used up all the paid leave the county gave you, how are you protecting yourself on your own if you have an illness that comes after that and all your county leave is gone? You had double payment for this window of time, and now you'll have nothing on this window if it's not also, again, Oregon Family Leave. Does that make sense?
Yes, and am I assuming correctly that they would not have to repay the double pay because it's two different pots of money?
Right, so they wouldn't have to double pay, but they would just need to be thoughtful that now they're regularly sick, for example, something that doesn't fall under paid leave Oregon, but they used all of their sick leave or their at the front end, and now they don't have any because of that. Does that make sense? So it's just that thoughtful piece that employees will have to realize that if you do get double pay, it's yes, it's a win, however, it's also something where you may need to be thoughtful for yourself, because now the county won't be holding that for you in essence.
Yeah, it is a conundrum, because it's absolutely true that it's a hardship for people waiting for paid leave Oregon because they need to pay their bills and the money doesn't come quickly.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And then there's that scary part, like I said, on the other end. If they get it and they need it all for what's happening in their life, but then they're just regularly sick for a couple of days and their sick leave has been all wiped out, there will be nothing to pay that other piece. So, yeah, just challenging.
We will do another open enrollment October, and maybe we'll talk about AFLAC and CIS both have a disability benefit that should an employee have a health condition, there could be some short-term disability benefits that they could sign up for just as a contingency, if that's something employees are interested and can afford to do. Any questions about OFLA and FEMLA and paid leave Oregon and that change in July? Jeff, the next item is yours.
Okay, so IS is changing the way that we handle onboarding. When people first start with county, we're gonna spend a few minutes with them getting the key information, you know, how to log in to enough to get them up and running. But then our normal orientations are gonna be the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. And just, it's a great thing, we're hiring a lot of people, but my staff are just a little concerned right now, and so in order to be more efficient with our time, and you know, if somebody can't make one meeting, we do need, it's important that they get to one of them at some point, but just rather than them coming straight from orientation, ready to go, we do need a little bit of time with them the second or fourth Tuesday of the month to get them fully up and running. Yes.
Are you gonna record any of the sessions? So that they could watch it if they can't make it to the second or fourth?
We are looking into that. I need to find out from Alice. I think a lot of times that is when she will sit there and configure certain things, so I will find out how much that needs to be hands-on. But we are definitely looking into recording some trainings and making those available as needed.
That's a good idea.
Well, and we've been trying to bring people on the 1st and the 16th of the month or the nearest start date, but because so many departments are just scrambling for staff, we've tried not to delay and saying, well, you know, maybe we'll start them on the 25th or sorry, Jeff, May was kind of a
Oh, no, it's a good thing. We're very fortunate to be able to be bringing people in, so no problems there at all.
So, but I appreciate IS continuing to support all of those meetings, because as we're bringing everyone in, I think every week we've had, you know, we're onboarding various individuals for various departments just to get people up and running. But generally, the 1st and the 16th is all it is.
Good.
So thank you, Jeff, for your help on that.
Sure.
Do we want to do department report outs? Do we want to start with Jeff? Because I don't want to call on Dan. It's his first full meeting. We'll give him a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a newsletter going out. It's time for the quarterly, but lots of information this time. We're gonna be changing our report fishing button because we've got our new fish training system finally online, ready to go. We're gonna be mentioning our new help desk system that's coming out. we're asking for volunteers. We are putting the finishing touches on the IS end of it to make it ready to go, but we want some non-technical people to take a look and help us make sure that we hit the mark and it's what will work the best for you. We're trying really hard to make it more efficient, easier to use, a little more user-friendly than our current system. So we need some additional eyes to make sure that we've done what we intended to do there, and so that's coming. Another change that we're making is we're going to be sending announcements from a group email address rather than, hey, one week it's Jeff saying something and then Jeff's on vacation, so it's Bob coming out. So trying to get those, we're gonna have a maintenance email that we'll send upcoming downtime and things with, an announcement to let people know just information that is important for people to know, and then we'll have a training email that don't know quite how we're gonna use that yet, but we've got it reserved just in case something comes up. But I found out through over time that there are people who just, oh, that's from Jeff, and just the emails never get opened. So we're hoping that coming from a more directed account that is more relevant, that will hopefully get a few more eyes on what we're trying to do. So that's what's going on in our world.
I always open your emails, Jeff.
Good.
Do I read them? I don't know. To begin with, our TC4 group have started their planning efforts for the Great Shakeout of this October. It's going to be on the 17th this year, and they want to build upon what they did last year, and so they've already had a couple of subcommittee meetings on determining what they want to do and identify all the players. They're looking at getting businesses a little bit more involved than they were last year, and so they're just trying to make sure they can get all that together. The Department of Emergency Management is doing their 4-day, they're calling it Iron Ore 24. It's a statewide exercise that they're using, I guess, the tsunami, of course, for its situation. And we were approached, well, at our last, at the Oregon Prepared meeting, we met as kind of a regional group. And we'll be participating in this regional group to help test communications between the counties and also communication getting out of here over to Salem and other entities. And it will involve Clatsop County, us, Tillamook, Lincoln, and Yamhill County. That will be working together on one aspect. That'll just be like a 1 day of the 4 days, but we will also, there will be other little game playing that we'll be able to do. But that's the biggest one, is they wanted to look at that interoperability between all the counties and how we can communicate between us, and then also get the message out in case Clatsop can't get the message out to Salem. I say Salem because that's where all the big boys and girls are at that are going to help us. And so we're going to see how we can get those and start doing some relays with messages to go out. The other thing too is that I'll be working on 2 separate grants that are due the 1st of June. One of them is the Emergency Management Preparedness Grant, which is the one that helps fund the personnel that's in the Department of Emergency Management. And so I'll be getting that put together there with that. The other one is it's the State Homeland Security Grant. And the county's given a very small amount as an allotment, $34,000. So it's not a lot of money, but it's something that we utilized. I've utilized it to purchase communication equipment, credentialing equipment this last year. You'd be using it to purchase some additional containers and supplies for emergency preparedness and getting those placed throughout the county. We're still, as a county, we're still waiting to see if the Office of Resiliency and Emergency Management took my bribe and gives us lots of money in their resiliency grant. They're saying they had 750 applications for $10 million. So not everybody's going to get money, in other words. So, but the reasons they were very pleased with that because it'll show the needs, so they can go to the legislation and try to get 10 million or more next year. If they didn't get very many applications, and the need's not there, and so how is it to get additional funding if you don't have a need? So hopefully we'll see some money trickling into our county, and they're saying June, which started Saturday and ends in 30 days. So we'll see if they can make it in June. We're hoping that we can do that. Training plans for this summer. Biggest is that I've been approached to bring in the ICS Incident Command System, the 300 and the 400 class. The Tillamook Police Department is highly interested. Of course, the fire department's interested because it's required for a lot of their training. So we're going to try to get those in, and because I am an instructor now with the state, they finally realized that I could probably teach, which is good. And so we'll be able to use some local instructors with me. I've got some instructors down in Clatsop County that are more than happy to come down. Also in Lincoln County, that they were more than happy to come up, because as instructors we can help each other, and that way we're not having to pay a company to come in, because normally these classes are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can take them online, but it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And so this way we can do it for, I work for food, so that works. No, I don't work for food. You need to keep sending me paychecks.
Randy said it was okay.
So.
You heard him. I heard him. I did. There's some muffins that might be left over there.
Oh, shoot. No. The other thing is that I want to bring in, it's a 191 course, and what it is, it's an ICS, Incident Command System / Emergency Operating Center, EOC interface, and the course helps develop an effective interface between the two groups of Incident Command, Unified Command, and our Emergency Operating Center. And I think that's good so people can understand the difference and where they complement each other and where they help. So hopefully we can get that brought into here. Everybody, there's never a good time. You bring out training and it's like, well, we can't do it during the summer. Okay, well, we can't do it during the fall. We can't do it during the spring. Oh, winter, it's slow, but we've got all this other training we're doing. And so I've decided that you just do the training when we can get the instructors, and if people are that interested, they'll show up. So again, we can do more than one session of these courses with our local instructors, and that was the point of the state. It's through the Department of Emergency Management is who certifies. And what's good about this is with these instructors, they'll actually be able to get their little certificate, which everybody likes to have. And so it'll actually be a FEMA certified course. So it's not taking the course and saying, well, I've got the knowledge, but you don't have the paperwork. So anyway, that's what we're doing, and don't drive north.
Randy, if you'd like assistance using the CIS system to enroll for those courses, and that we can push out that to either county employees or others, let me know when you're ready.
Excellent, yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff that you're able to do.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun. Like I say, don't drive north. We got that slide at Neoconi. It's it's kind of cool.
I haven't heard about that yet.
Go to the Emergency Management Facebook, and if you go to Trip Check, they've got a picture of it, and that's a lot of dirt across the road. But you just take 53 up and around and spend an extra 2 hours enjoying the scenery while you're going around.
Is 101 closed?
Yes, 101 is closed, sorry, and it's just north of Manzanita.
Thank you.
But that's the first slide. You gotta remember, we got 2 inches of rain. And how many other places on 101 slide?
The day is young.
The day is young, so
So we're expecting a longer term closure on that then?
that's what they're
Given
saying.
it a timeline at all?
They're trying, no timeline yet, I just keep checking and checking. They're trying to get the famous one lane open so that they can flag through it just to do that. But it happened at 5:30 in the morning, and my phone went ding and I just turned over and went back to sleep. So at 7:30, I woke up and realized that, oh, that ding was my alert that there was a slide. So anyway, they're just not saying how long, of course. But if you look at those pictures on TripCheck, it's
Significant, huh?
kind of deep. Yeah, it's very significant. It happened just north of Manzanita in that state park. If that helps you.
Yeah, no, I saw the closure online and I saw the little red X, but I didn't see the pictures.
Yeah. If you click on the little X, you can see a cool little picture, and then you can see this small little front end loader that's
Like this great big pile of landslide.
yeah. So they've been working on it since 5 this morning. But the trouble they're going to have is just like they had at the one just this side of Brighton is that you clean it off, but then what happens? It just keeps coming down and down, and so they're going to probably end up doing. I'm not really that familiar with that area, so in other words, be careful when you're driving and make sure you have your little go bag in your car in case you get stuck between landslides while you're out there. Yeah,
That's significant.
yeah. Be prepared. Oh, isn't that great? That's a great
Yeah.
picture. So anyway,
I can figure that excavator is probably 10, 12 feet tall and it's sitting on top of a stack of dirt that's easily 12 feet tall or greater. So yeah, they got a few cubic yards of material.
but luckily it didn't affect any of us coming into work today, which is nice because I don't know. I think
Only a small part of Tillamook County was cut off.
just small,
Just a small slice.
just a small slice. But so
That's significant for
yeah,
lots of other
it's any
reasons.
traveling up to see physicians at Providence, things like that up in Seaside. I mean, it's pretty significant. So any travel, and so the big warning is make sure you always check chip track and trip check,
Mhm.
and also sign up for their alerts so you can get their little dings at 5:30 in the morning.
Where do you sign up for their alerts? Because I'm signed up for Nixle, but it didn't come as a Nixle, so.
No, I just went on their ODOT's website, and then you can just get their little alerts, and you can put in there that you want alerts for different parts of the
I
state.
thought I had that, so I'll go back and try that one.
Yeah, so
So
But you-
Randy, what's the prediction for this storm? Is it almost over? Are we
It's about
expecting
over.
more?
yeah, it's winding down. We got our 2 inches of rain finally that they predicted we were going to get, and again we're just going to have some off and on showers today, and then by Thursday we're back into sunshine again. But my guess is that we'll continue to get some more rain, and it's already saturated, and it's going to become more saturated. Luckily, our river levels were way down, of course, and so the increase there, raising them 2 to 3 feet didn't put us anywhere near issues with that. So, and don't eat anything. Remember, the mussels are bad, the bay clams are bad, and did you hear that they shut down the oysters?
No?
I did hear that.
They shut down the oysters, and so to me, I mean, we're starting to look at some economic damage here now too. So
Yeah,
when they first came out, they said, I didn't understand it, is that commercially harvested mussels were okay, but recreational harvested mussels were not, and that did not make sense. Why if you have a commercial license, they're fine. So they finally changed their mind, and now it's all commercial and recreational for all of those. So eat as much crab as you can before it decides to get the bio. And it's a biotoxin. I guess there's no testing for it other than the nausea, the tongue going numb, headaches, difficulty breathing. I mean, that's all they have. So
and I know Marlene is on, and I know Public Health was alerted last week and was in meetings relating to the mussels. And I think, Marlene shared, I think we had 2 cases in county related to that as of when I talked to her. What day?
Yeah.
Forget what day I talked to you, Marlene, sorry. Do you wanna give an update as well?
I don't have anything more than what's been described. If folks are interested and want to encourage folks that are visiting to please check out the state website for areas that are closed. And maybe Randy, you already said that too. Just normally the sites will list like what is open for harvesting. And previously for shellfish, including mussels, it did say that it was closed. but since there are not signs, it can be confusing for folks. So we're just reminding people, go to the Department of Ag site. We're looking as we update our websites, and this is probably already on Randy's too, is links to those. But there's a lot of things that are closed right now. If people are concerned, don't wait to go to their primary care provider, go to the ER. The shellfish can be fatal in terms of the disease or the symptoms related to it, but now it seems like things are under control with less than 30, as far as I know, along in coastal communities of people reporting illness.
Thank you.
Yeah, I talked with a couple of the businesses along the coast, and they're basically not selling any at all. And the last individual I talked to, they got their clams from somewhere that wasn't in the area, but they're not able to purchase anything anymore, and so they are basically, you know, into the crabbing business only right now. So just be careful and just warn everybody, don't eat it. And if you see it on a menu here, I would probably not order it, because you never know where they've got it. And it's like Marlene said, is it can be deadly. So
Randy, in terms of an emergency related to this that would provide economic relief to our shellfishers, is there anything that we need to be tracking to keep an eye on that, to be prepared to declare something that would give them access to relief?
that's what I'm working on right now, is to find out where we're at, because I've been contacted by various state agencies I normally work with
Okay,
to
'cause
help do that, to see where we need to go, and a lot of it's going to depend on how long it goes, because like I say, when they shut down the oysters, I mean, you've got, you know,
Yeah, I'm sure Jay Andrea and Pacific
Right.
Oyster are.
and so I mean, they're really, that's
Yeah.
could be devastating if that's shut down for any length of time.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, Marlene maybe has more on that, is that they go on, they test, I think, once or twice a week, and they have to have so many tests with the toxins being so low, so it could take a long time to do that. I know that they were having statewide MAC meetings, multi-agency coordinating meetings, but they have since no longer holding those this week, and so I don't know if that's an indication that things are winding down, or if they just got tired of meeting. I'm not really sure.
Just holding steady.
Yeah, so they were having meetings every day with the MAC group, and then also the Department of Emergency Management was holding them, and they all shut down on Monday.
How about the oil spill stuff?
Oh, they don't know anything yet on that. They did clean up. It was like over 800 pounds just on Beverly Beach, and so they're just still cleaning up and going back. But it's, again, they're testing. It's petroleum based, and that's all they know. They don't know where it came from. But talking with a lot of other people, tar coming up on the beaches isn't unknown and not a first thing. And so it's just, again, just something that's going on. But the Coast Guard's been flying to see if they found any oil sheens out in the ocean, and they're not finding anything that really looks like it could be, you know, really devastating. So again, it's just the little tar balls out there, and they've got crews, scat crews is what they call them.
Yeah.
Good name for them, picking up the tar and disposing of it. And the whale was killed by, they figured, a vessel. But it's located in a nesting area that's protected anyway, and so they haven't made any decision on what they're gonna do with it. The blowing up with dynamite, I think, is not on the table.
That one's out. Tried that. Wasn't
Yeah,
their
that's
greatest
not on the
success
table.
ever.
And so it's sitting there, but it's in a protective area with the nesting
Snowy
scope.
plovers.
Yeah,
Yeah, the snowy plovers.
plovers,
Snowy plovers.
plovers. I could never figure out how that's
Snowy
kind of a.
plovers.
So it's in an isolated area, and so I'm not really sure what they're gonna end up doing with it, but don't go poke the whale.
So going back to what Marlene was talking about, I appreciate her suggestion about how do we communicate to tourists, to visitors, about the danger of shellfish. So I'm wondering if the closure for all shellfish is up on the emergency management website or Facebook page, and if then parks could also communicate that. And we could, because we have all kinds of visitors who come and do clamming at Barview, for example, and they're not necessarily gonna know. And also then we could share it with Tillamook Coast Visitors Association and the organizations that are communicating to visitors.
During one of the meetings, Fish and Wildlife was sending out emails to every shellfish permit holder and let them know 150,000 worth. And that's how many permits they have out for this year, so.
Well, I have a permit and I did not get an email, so I guarantee everybody did.
Oh, no.
I'm sure mine's sitting in my junk mail somewhere.
Yeah, but we have noticed that state parks has put some signage up at the state parks about the shellfish issue.
So is it on your Facebook page
Yes.
and website yet?
Yes.
Okay, so parks and other organizations can, and do you know if the emergency communicators have communicated this yet?
Yes, it's on their page too. And from my understanding is that it's a statewide closure now, not just certain areas. But like I say, I'll get back and do some more updating over the weekend and see what people have come up with that, so. But luckily Barbie Jetties and Kelly's Marina, they're aware well, so anybody that's going to those types of locations will definitely, they won't be selling them permits. And also, alerting them that they can't do it. So, at least our commercial vendor people there on the beaches are well aware, and so they're not doing that, but it still could be, like I say, people that don't know, and then a lot of people, I shouldn't say this, but probably do it without a license.
Some people have been known to collect clams without a license, it's
Yes, and so that's the other, I guess that's their payback. Oh, Randy, why'd you say that?
Yeah.
true.
It's kind of like food for pay, right? Okay, but anyway, so that's the biggest thing there is just getting it out and doing that, and so I know there's been a pretty big push on the news about it too, shutting it down, so. But luckily it rained pretty hard, at least on Sunday on the weekend, and free fishing and clamming and shell fishing, so that kind of helped. But Saturday was such a beautiful day, and that's what scared me, is that, there's gonna be a lot of people, but
Right, free fishing days, so they didn't necessarily have to be in contact with a vendor.
right, and they didn't have a license, so they're not gonna get any information from Fish and Wildlife, so.
But parks could print up a sign and post it at the fee booth at Barview, like all clamming, et cetera, closed currently.
Right, yeah, the one sign that we did find was on Shore Beach, they're out of Neatards. There was a sign there on that park that just said, closure to shellfish. But I don't know if Neatards, their big sign down there has had anything put on it yet or not.
Cause that would be Department of Ag, right, who's doing the
Yes,
closure that
Department of Ag.
theoretically would be
Yes.
posting at the most common,
Yes,
Harvest
yeah, they're
points.
the lead,
they're the lead,
yeah, on this one. Them and Fish and Wildlife, the Department of Ag, it seems to be.
should be, cause they're the ones that do the testing and make the decisions, I think.
So but yeah, the economic, it could be
Devastating.
devastating here, so.
Yeah, Jandy had a special on steak on Friday night, which was how I realized they closed the oysters.
You went down for their smoked
I
oysters.
didn't know, and I
Yeah.
saw it online and I was like, oh, oh.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Busy stuff in emergency management. Christy?
All right, so we just had an election, so that's done, and we have 178 ballots left in the office. 84 that can be counted and 94 that we're waiting on, but we did have hit 48.04% turnout as of last week, which was amazing, which we beat the state average of 34.6.
Wow.
So that's good. And then we, by statute, can close our office twice a year for training purposes. And so we're gonna plan, our office will be closed on Tuesday, August 13th, and we'll get a press release out because I'd like my staff to be able to attend the Association of County Clerks recording training on Tuesday, the 13th. So they'll be attending that either in person at Clatsop County, because that's where our conference is in August. Or they can do it by Zoom, but we'll be closing so they can participate in that. And we'll do that in February again when our winter conference is. So they'll have the opportunity to participate and get current information and whatnot. And other than that, that is about all we have going on. Just getting to wrap up on the election.
That's all.
And prepping for November. So the cities are there's been a lot of changeover and turnover in cities and boards, and so having to get all that cleaned up before the November election, so we are starting on that.
Treasurer's office, fiscal year end, everybody knew their vouchers were due by the end of last week. Don't hold the stragglers out, please, put them on the M drive, even if, we aren't able to pay them until next fiscal year. Coming up on the end of the fiscal year, doing line item cleanups, supplemental budgets, board order line item transfers, approval of the budget for next fiscal year will be at the end of this month, just due to timing and noticing. Otherwise, we're just keeping busy.
I don't have a lot, I am anticipating September on the horizon with the changes in ballot measure 110. I'm anticipating a increase in referrals to our office. So, which will not be an entirely a bad thing, because we'll be able to, do more interventions with those kids that are walking that path. That's all I've got.
I think that is a good thing.
Hi, first of all, good morning, everybody. I think for the most part, we have, there's not really a lot to say about anything spectacular. I think for the most part, it's been business as usual, but very good business. We got through the Memorial Weekend fairly unscathed. I think there was one report of a rowdy group on that Friday night, but that was quelled pretty quickly. And of course, the campgrounds were all full. And this followed, of course, by this last weekend where we had free camping that was available for the locals, which is just awesome. And again, I think everybody had a good time. Of course, there probably a lot of evacuations early Sunday morning when the rain kept coming down, but that's to be expected. I think that really the last thing to share is that park staff have been working on a rerouting plan for the as you enter the park at Barview to help make things faster, to help keep traffic from backing up on the highway, get people off the railroad tracks, and I would anticipate that in the next few days we're going to be wrapping that up. And then also with that, I'd like to thank IS, for your help with that in the technological standpoint for the new window that'll be open on the west side. So we really appreciate your help and your support, and we'll be moving that along. So besides that, that's kind of about it. I appreciate the opportunity.
One lane open. I just got the notice.
Okay.
One lane open going north. But no lanes open going south. No, one lane open through it. Yeah, that just barely came out. So you are the first to know.
Chris, do you have a report out? I see some folks have already shared they didn't have anything to report, but I haven't seen that note from you yet.
No slides on the county roads. We did have some trees come down over the weekend. Ron Newton has officially retired. Brian Ollie is our engineering project manager. He starts full-time on June 10th. He's been part-time up till then. Randy and I meet with FEMA on Thursday, I believe, in order to try to secure some money for big trout. We have the state bridge engineer writing a letter of support for that. Paving is ongoing. We're moving in the right direction. We previously submitted some money to the Siuslaw Resource Advisory Committee, the RAC grant. I actually sit on that committee, so I have to abstain from voting, but I think that's a good thing. This Thursday, I meet with the city of Tillamook to finalize some of the planning zoning work for Kilchis, the Kilchis House project, and we are closing in, which is really our biggest hangup, which is the archaeologist. So the archaeology review report, so that shouldn't be too far behind. The Cape Kiwanda, the Cape Mears Loop Road, the final work on that project has been completed by the contractor for Federal Highway. They ended up doing some wall work. We closed the road in order for them to complete some of the wall work. There wasn't anything wrong with it. They just had to take care of that. Keep in mind, we had opened the road back up in November of last fall. And you can only do some work when it's dry. So this is really just the final cleanup on that. We have not received a letter from Federal Highway yet stating that they are releasing the road to us. One of the comments that's going to pop out there for everybody, the viewpoint that's up there was really fundamentally the construction staging area for the contractor. The rocks that were out there, the large boulders that were out there that were set, those were set with the intent for that construction staging yard. Federal Highway had the contractor to relocate them to where the property line is, the right-of-way line. So when you go out there and you see a much significantly reduced parking area, that's because those boulders are where the our actual right-of-way is. Last of the items is short-term rentals. The road department, that work is continues to pick up more and more and more. So it's continuing to chew up our time that is better spent elsewhere, but we are starting to see, I wouldn't say it's better spent elsewhere, but we are starting to see some improvements in the parking congestion in some of these locations. So it is a benefit for that. That was the last of my updates.
Oh, that was funny.
So, Aubrey, thank you. District Attorney's Office does not have a report out. Denise, do you have anything for us today?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
I'm a little, I'm hoping it's allergies, a mild cold, but I thought I'd stay in my office today. I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate Cassandra Larson for winning the election to be our next county assessor when my term is up. It's my intention to invite her to come and attend these meetings going forward. An interesting factoid I wanted to mention, and I really am not sure the ramifications of it, but in the 13 years that I've been assessor, it's normally 1 to 2 assessors that retire each year out of the 36 counties, 1, 2, maybe 3. This year, there's 9 of us retiring. So just interesting that I thought, I think we're kind of seeing that in a lot of our jobs, and I just thought I'd share that. So that's all I have for you guys today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Denise, does it seem like a coincidence or is there a trend?
Well, that's a good question. Is it the baby boomer generation? Is it like in my case, technology going so fast and trying to keep up with it? Is it, people are just ready to retire and enjoy the rest of their life? I'm not sure.
Okay.
I just think it's interesting,
It
in
is.
all these years.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Don. Do you have a report from the library?
Good morning. Yeah, we're getting really excited for summer at the library. And on June 10th, summer reading is going to start. We've been out delivering packets to all of the schools, getting people excited about all the opportunities this year for summer reading, both in terms of the programs we'll have, the game, and the reading opportunities. So if you know some young people out there, please do encourage them to get their registrations turned in at the library so that they can take part in summer reading. As part of that, on Thursday, we will be opening late as we do our staff training around summer reading, getting all of the staff ready to administrate the program. And then we're also really excited for the park this summer. We have a summer music series that is going to be going on Fridays at noon. So we're going to have all kinds of different music. Look to see, there should be posters going out this week that has listings for all of the music that will be in the park. But if you are in this area and you want to take a break around noon and have your lunch, it's a good opportunity to go down to the carts and then come listen to some music over at the library. And then we also will have original practice Shakespeare going on at the end of the summer, so August 30th and 31st, and that will be a really good opportunity to put our stage to the test with a dramatic production or two. So excited for that. You can find brochures at all of the libraries, as well as if you want a digital copy, feel free to email me and I can send one out to you. And then the last thing is we've been having conversations about our roof and the exterior of the building, and we are making progress on what will likely be work that will start this summer on the roof and the exterior of the building. So more to come on that, but that is going to be good. We have a number of areas where there are leaks and some issues on the exterior of the building that happen with weather. So we're excited to get that taken care of in the coming year. Thanks.
Don, could you say something else about, I think you just called it Original Practice Shakespeare? I'm not familiar with that event.
Yeah, it's a festival that happens around Oregon in different parks, and it is a group, a troupe that goes around and does Shakespeare. They don't have extensive practice of any one play, so they go through and they read lines, and it's done a little bit like a theater sport sort of setup where they have a referee of sorts that can help with lines or can speed things along, or just kind of makes it a fun production. And so it's just it's a different way of doing it, but it harkens back to Shakespeare's day where you might not necessarily have time to practice play infinitely before you have to put it in. So actors would have to read because scripts were just getting done as they would present them. So it's got a historical context to it, but it's a lot of fun. It's been around for quite some time. I remember going to see a production, maybe like a decade ago. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
That sounds fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. It doesn't look like there's a report for Justice Court, County Council, or the Sheriff's Office. Nick, you indicated you had a couple of projects you were working on, but no other report. So Sarah, I think that brings us to you.
You might want to circle back to Marlene because she only got to talk about shellfish.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did miss Marlene.
That's okay. I was trying to remember what you just said, Dawn, about the practice that Commissioner Bell was asking about, because it sounds like a professional way to describe when you're doing work on the fly. So maybe that's a good phrase I should start adapting to when I talk about our practice in progress. Anyway, for this summer and kind of into the fall, we're just getting ready for the announcements for our wellness exams, all ages, but you'll see features on social media, webpage, radio, and the like. Through, every month we have a feature, but you'll just be hearing more about that more recently here and in the future with incentives for those kind of visits. I guess the big phrase, and I continue to say this, I think in the last two reports, is planning, planning, planning. So we are going to be wrapping up the draft of our communications plan for internal and external communication, our justice, diversity, and equity inclusion planning, and the charter and so forth for our internal work group. The facilities plan is just about completed, and we're looking at the final draft today with our consultants on that. We have finished our first draft of our telemedicine plan and pilot, but we're developing the work plan for the next calendar year. The same thing with our wellness programming. We're just starting planning for the next year, how that's all going to work. And recognizing that we have our 30-year anniversary for our federally qualified health center next spring. So even though it sounds like oh, we have a whole year. All of these things, as we all know, take a lot of time to put in place. So we're beginning to work on those, but more immediately, I think Matt was mentioning ballot measure 110 and the changes that is going to have on his department and staff. We will have some impacts as well, but we're just working on revising that response to the grant application and funding for behavioral health and substance use treatment and opioid use disorders and the like. The last two things that really relate to our grant funding or resource funding that are pretty big this year is every 3 years we submit a service area competition application for our federal funding for the health center, which is around 2.6 million. So that is due here in the November timeframe with October 1st draft. And we're going to be submitting for requests. So keep your fingers crossed on this one for Medicaid reimbursement rates with the Oregon Health Authority and their negotiated agreement with CMS for our funding. So that's due September 30, and it's a backward look at services in the last 5 to 10 years, requesting an increase in overall reimbursement rates. So a lot of grant stuff, a lot of planning, and trying to keep services going while we work with Jeff and team to get our website and things updated, and the same with Jody and HR trying to fill those vacancies, and we're seeing some good progress on both fronts. Thanks for the opportunity to update.
Thank you, Marlene. Sarah?
Good morning. Just a couple of things. There's a Housing Commission meeting this Thursday. So the Housing Commission meets monthly, and we are rolling out the final forms and on the final steps for implementation of the property tax exemption program. So I want to thank Commissioner Scar and the Assessor's Office for their work on that with Parker. With that, the rural residential zone amendment updates are in effect to allow ADUs on rural residential zone properties. There are some standards and initial requirements, but that is done. Doing a lot of work right now focused on the short-term rental program with renewals and programmatic update implementation, and then also implementation preparations for Senate Bill 406. So I'm attending a lot of community meetings literally all over the county, and the work with the communities is going well. Want to welcome Jody Keys as our new permit technician to the building division. She is joining us today, so we are really excited about that. And then the other thing quickly, I have been reviewing the draft regulatory updates that FEMA is going through the federal environmental review process for right now for the BIOP. As you are all aware, we are inching towards implementation. Molly Lawrence, our attorney, and I had an opportunity to look at those draft regulations before they become public for public comment, and we are submitting our comments on those today. So our deadline to do that is today. I do have to say that I am thankful a lot of the work that we did over that 18-month period with FEMA and NOAA in that technical advisory group. I'm seeing that work reflected in the ways that they are trying to find flexibility and alternative options for jurisdictions like Tillamook County. So it's not perfect, it's still terrible, but I do see some things. They have listened to us in some areas of these program updates. So I just want to make sure that we include that in our comments to them as well. It'll be a couple of more months. I don't expect any of that to come out for public review until at least the fall, and I would say late fall. So I will keep you all posted on that. And then in a meeting that I did have with FEMA the other day, we were talking about these regulations and implementation. There's a couple of changes that are most likely going to occur, and I've asked for the Department of Justice determination on this. We may have to publicly notice any floodplain development permit moving forward. So that means for a home, if someone wanted to repave or asphalt their driveway, there are going to be a lot of big changes that will require a significant more amount of work for staff but also the timelines if those public notification requirements are going to be part of these program updates. Right now, we limit them to work that's in floodways or that is also part of an estuary. So there's a lot of floodplain development permit work we do that does not require public notice. So that may be changing. The other thing in talking with FEMA is once these draft regulations are fine-tuned, Tillamook County will be the test pod to look at those. So they want to know how they are going to work and actually be played out by local jurisdictions, if planners and certified floodplain managers are going to be able to actually do the work. I have offered to pull some past projects that we have done and to be the test pod with FEMA to see if we're actually going to be able to review permits at the local level. So we want to make sure that we are aware of what these changes are going to be and what the expectations of us are going to be. And most importantly, to be able to see if we can actually do the work that they are requiring us to do. So they're all the updates I have right now. Thank you.
So Sarah, something that jumped in my mind when you were talking about that was the paving project at the entrance to Barview. So is that, as an example, is that the sort of thing that might, in the scenario you just described, require public notice?
Potentially, yes. So one of the things that there's several things that we are trying to differentiate. And one of them is if it's existing, like the park and the driveway is already there. So we're not adding impervious surface. We're just redoing what already exists as that degraded habitat is basically how they're looking at it. If that can proceed without review, without public notice. So there's that element. There's different standards for a marine environment versus a freshwater environment. And so, yeah, it's there's a lot coming, but to your point, those types of questions are things I would like to be able to find a fast track for if the ground has already been disturbed and that riparian habitat value has already been degraded. Should there be a different review process versus somewhere where you have not seen those impervious surfaces or that disturbance yet?
Good point.
So you could hurry and pave it now.
That was my next question. What's the timeline?
You know, this whole process has been hurry up and wait. So I don't expect anything through this next year, but I think in 2026, that's where things are going to get very serious.
Okay, now you know.
So whatever you want to build, you want to pave, because we are looking at essentially a prohibition on new impervious surface or additions of impervious surface to groundwork. And that will include gravel. So it's a great time to do your facility improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else we missed online? I think that's everybody. Thank you. Commissioners?
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple of things I can tell us all about. We're bringing on a new person on our fair board, a gentleman by the name of Corey Hollis, who is a police officer in Tillamook and fairly new to the area, a couple of years. But his wife grew up here, then went to Texas, met him, and so they're back. And so he looks like a pretty good individual, and so that'll be before the board, I think, this week. This is something for Commissioner Bell and everyone. You may have been invited to the groundbreaking for the nursing school, and I'll let her talk more about that when it gets over to her. But I think that's a big deal here, that we're going to have a school as part of a college of that type. Friday, I will be down in Newport for an evening meeting with BOEM, which is the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. They are slowly working their way up the entire Oregon coast, all the way to the Columbia River, and laying out various areas where ocean energy, meaning the big giant windmills, would be. They're accepting bids on 2 areas down off Reedsport and south. But I think they mean to do the whole coast. Now, whether it will get here and exactly when, and if they pass over some areas because of our undersea cables we'll know more, but I wanted to go to that meeting simply because I'm following on behalf of the county, but I also want to see the reaction of the local people. If they, on a Friday night, they may have a poor attendance, I don't know, but I want to see if the local people, if there's any support or opposition, or if they're organized, or, just see what the local people have to say. There's 4 meetings, they're just working their way north. I'm also having a utility meeting of all the small utilities. I think we setting it up for the 27th, a Thursday, and we're gonna do it right here in this room and then online as well, and focus on the issues with the smaller water and sewer utilities. EBO, for example, got down to where they only had 1 board member, so they were non-functional. They also terminated their operator, and their bookkeeper quit. And so they found themselves in a world of hurt big time, and the board commissioners appointed 2 more, so they were back at a functioning board. They did hire another bookkeeper, and they rehired their operator. So they now have the state off their back for the time being. But there's a dozen other, more than that, there's actually almost a dozen and a half small utilities that suffer from the same issues. For example, their rate for water and sewer is $160, and they only have 74 subscribers. That's not enough money in terms of cash flow to even hire 1 employee. And so the issue is one, if you draw the old bell curve, they're at the far, they're 3 standard deviations away from the mean and being able to operate a successful system, simply because they don't have the money, they don't have the expertise, and the state of Oregon doesn't seem to much care. You either have clean water or you don't. And if you don't, if you don't test it regularly, you have a problem with the state of Oregon. And that's probably good public policy, because as we've heard, the state intervenes when there are health matters, and they would do it here. So the last thing I'll mention, I think all of you received a memo from me last week about our budget issues. So we're gonna start a series of meetings, I think the 3rd Wednesday at the board briefing sessions in the afternoon, but we're gonna make that a budget session. We'll have our budget committee here, and hopefully all of you and key staff, and we're going to work through some of the issues, particularly with the general fund, but there's a bigger issue of how does that affect special funds, so we're gonna take up that issue as well. And right now I've identified 22 things that we could adjust, and I'll probably add a couple more pros and cons, but it'll be a roundtable discussion. And they range from some fairly nominal ones, like raising the price of weddings, for example. That's probably not gonna solve all the county's problems.
But it might buy some.
But I take it all the way down to some, for example, creating a new agency or for law enforcement. In other words, make it a service district of some sort, and maybe separate patrol from the jail. These are things we talk about, not necessarily that's an optimum or the choice, but that's something to be talked about. The same thing with the serial levy for law enforcement. And there are lots and lots of other things that we will look at in terms of our cash flow. We'll also look, maybe even have a separate work session on the TLT, the room tax. And that, if it's raised, it requires a vote of the people, we've been told by council. And so that would go before the voters, likely next May, not this November, because we have another issue for our radios. But the budget long-term, as the treasurer will tell you, it's in balance now. It'll be approved in a couple of weeks or adopted. But long-term, not so much. We're gonna be several $1 million short every year into the future, and it gets worse the longer you look out. And so there has to be some fundamental adjustments in what we do, how we do it, or if we do it. A couple of other things you'll see. One is a 4-day week, and that's been done elsewhere. We're also looking at maybe a 6-hour day instead of an 8-hour day. And these will all be on the table. They all have pros and cons, including union matters, special fund versus general fund. And there's all kinds of ugly issues, but we're not gonna hide from them. We're gonna take them on. So thank you. That's my report. More to come on that one. And we should plan to be there if you can, and also bring on whatever staff would be helpful as well, like Cassandra now taking over as the assessor. So those kinds of things. More to come.
Okay, and Doug, I'll just tag onto that, which is we're looking for solutions from everyone. So Doug says he has a list of 21 or 22 items. Those are not the only things that can or possibly be on the table. I'm hopeful that at the first meeting, we will be throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall, a lot of ideas and thoughts, and all of you as our leaders probably have had some of those ideas and thoughts. So we want them. We want all this spaghetti on the wall so that we can take a look at how do we plan for a sustainable future for the county, for general funds, special revenue funds, for everybody. So we hope that this will feel like an inclusive process as much as it can be for everyone to join us. We're talking about all of our futures together. So hopefully that will be something people can join us for. Just things that have been going on for me. I had the opportunity last week to speak to the House Committee on Housing at the state level, just to talk a little bit about things we've been doing in Tillamook County that are successful, and the opportunity to ask for them to consider items to put into their committee bill for the House, for housing for the next session. So that was just a good opportunity to continue to keep Tillamook needs out in front of our legislature, because it's a huge piece. I think anyone you talk to will say housing is what's driving a lot of our challenges. So we continue to work at that at the state level. We have a Board of Forestry meeting coming up this Thursday, so I will be providing testimony, as well as there is gonna be a back and forth conversation with the Board of Forestry and the FTLAC group, specifically relating to performance measures that will be used to determine if the HCP that they are putting into place is being successful. And then that work will ultimately drive any changes they make in how they're implementing the HCP going forward. Those are like 10-year windows, so it's not like we're gonna be able to, make things happen quickly by any means, but it is an opportunity for us to make sure that as the Board of Forestry is looking at what they will measure, how they will measure it, and how they will make decisions using it, that we are at the table and our voice is there. So that's this coming Thursday from 1 to 2:30 with FTLC and the Board of Forestry as part of their regular meeting. So that's coming up, and I've got a couple preparation meetings for that this week. We have a Tillamook Working Lands and Waters tour that we've been working on planning. We have 2 legislators signed up so far, so I'm gonna check with Suzanne this week and see how much arm twisting she was able to do at Ledge Days last week, and if we're gonna actually have that tour go or not. But it's supposed to be on the 13th of June, so working on trying to get legislators out here to understand how we do what we do to try to keep them from further impacting it unnecessarily. Friday I spent working on the Salmonberry Trail Intergovernmental Agency. Those of you who follow the Salmonberry Trail, it's been almost 10 years since it was, this intergovernmental agency was started, and it will sunset in September of 2025 if nothing is done, and that means that all the work for rail banking and getting this trail ready to go would sort of just dissipate. So there's significant work being done to determine, is this the right structure that we're using, and how would we move it forward? So just another body of work related to Tillamook County and the trail. So those are just things been on my radar.
Thank you. Marlene, do you have a moment to come back on? Because I forgot to ask you a question. I am getting questions in the community about the implementation of a new pharmacy. Marlene, you might very well be multitasking.
Yeah, I was trying to send you the shellfish information.
Oh, thank
But
you.
I sent you a few emails about that, and I dropped a message in the chat for those that are interested about OHA asking people who've harvested night shellfish. But on the pharmacy front, so there is a lot flying around. We've been working, our staff here at the health center with our partner Genoa Pharmacy to locate a pharmacy in Tillamook County. The challenge is to find a space that is, I'll say, affordable for the health center or health department, and that will work for the pharmacy itself. So one of our deals fell through, which is what delayed things a little bit, but we think we've identified a new location, and we have the architectural drawings. I just received them on Friday, and we are meeting with the landlord this week. So I'm remaining optimistic about that. We're not dropping it. We will work with this partner. The lease agreement and sublease agreement are about 3 years for this contracted service with Genoa. So without like revealing a name of a location, kind of keeping it a mystery, until we can sign those subleases, which you, Commissioner, and others will see at your meetings in the near future for approval of the lease and the sublease agreements and the agreement with this pharmacy team.
That's wonderful news, thank you.
Okay,
And
thank you.
thanks for sorting through the shellfish closure information, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
A couple things. One, I wanted to also mention the budget workshops that Doug brought up, that I really hope that you'll block out the time on your calendars and join us, and not be frightened by the list of things that Doug mentioned, because really those are just, these are brainstorming sessions. And I agree with Doug that every idea and everyone's ideas should be on the table. We should look at everything. And we need your help to brainstorm solutions. So the solutions are, given the projected loss in revenue over time, a short period of time, either we're gonna have to generate revenue or cut services, plain and simple. Those are the two options. So we wanna hear from you, what are the possibilities that have occurred to you? And I like brainstorming sessions, because somebody can throw something out and then we are a bunch of fine minds. People can come to the work and say, well, have you considered this? Or what about this? Or this could be, pros and cons. These are all the pros of that idea, but what about these consequences? So I really hope that you will all be involved in these brainstorming sessions with us. And I think it's an exciting process, because we haven't done this before. We haven't done monthly budget workshops to talk about, to bring everybody together to the table and say, oh, what do you think we should do about this? And what do you think the ideas are? So, and we haven't utilized our citizen budget committee members before in this way either. Previously, they've just come a couple times a year for the budget hearings. So they are willing to participate with us in this process on a monthly basis, and I think it's really dynamic. So I'm looking forward to those conversations, and I hope that you all can participate and join us. I will talk a little bit about the groundbreaking for TVCC for the healthcare education building. That is very exciting. It's just a tremendous investment in our community that voters have made. And so it's June 21st is the groundbreaking, and the TVCC was the last college, the last community college in the state to have an RN program, so now we do. And the RN students they're participating already, so they got started this year in the winter term. And so it's a grow your own opportunity. It's an economy builder. It's a way for people who want good family wage jobs, who want to live here and stay here and work here and raise their kids here. Everybody benefits. The healthcare industry benefits. We as patients benefit. The economy benefits. Everybody benefits from this. So it's very exciting. And we have a super dynamic college. We're also getting ready for the TVCC graduation, which is always a joyful affair. And really, this year will be at the fairgrounds, but in the future, we'll be at that new healthcare education building. And really, I can tell you that I've been to the graduations for, I think this is my 10th year on the board. It's really so emotional and wonderful, because families come, like multiple generations come to these graduations. And a lot of people are adult learners, so their children are there and their parents are there and their grandparents are there. Whole big families come. It's really a wonderful thing. There are wonderful things happening in this community. I was thinking about Christy when she was talking about some of the random things that the clerk's office has to do. Is I know this from conversations at TVCC that TVCC can't find our own zone maps, and so TVCC board members are elected in zones, or they're free floating. There's another word for that. And we can't find the zone map. So I know that the college has reached out to the clerk's office to say, what exactly is our zone map? Which is it was just kind of eye-opening to me about all the things you're called upon to do. I wanted to respond to Jeff and the idea about orientation, and IS orientation and how this year you have, I'm aware that there are all kinds of people being hired, including there's a pilot project for HR doing the seasonal hiring for parks. So we're grateful for everybody's work in that because it has dramatically increased the workload of everybody who's orienting people. And so including IS. So thank you. And your department is just doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was interesting to listen to Doug talk for a minute about the water districts and their problems, and they're not the only special districts that are having those problems. I had a conversation yesterday about the Tillamook Fire District, which is, folks know who live here, particularly that voters did not pass the fire district levy request. And so it's the same kind of conversation about how do smaller districts pay for what they need to pay for in order to provide the services the community expects? And the fire district has not increased their rates for a long time, and they're remarkably low, and in fact, not enough for them to do the work the community wants them to do. And yet, people acknowledged, I was talking to somebody from the fire district, people acknowledged that this is a terrible time to ask people to pay more taxes, because people are suffering from inflation. So it is a hard time. I was wondering who will the new fire chief be, because Chief McBrayer is moving to, or maybe has already moved to become the fire chief in Oceanside as Chief Carpenter retires. So the Paul Edwards has been the part-time or the assistant fire chief for I think 7 years, and he's going to step up and be the interim fire chief. So I'm encouraged about that because Paul is great. So they'll have strong leadership in that role, at least in the interim. The last thing I wanted to mention is just interesting this weekend, as we got the torrential rains yesterday. I was reading about an 1894 flood, a historic Oregon flood. Did you read about that, Randy? It was maybe the largest flood of its kind that happened. This was the anniversary. It happened at the end of May in 1894, and there are astonishing pictures about it, about downtown Portland being underwater by several feet. And it was a historic snowpack, and then it all melted suddenly. And it was interesting to me because it was that flood that set the standard for the highest possible floods are this one. And maybe there have been higher floods before that, but not recorded. And so that was fascinating, and also to think that by the end of May we think we're out of the woods for serious floods, but not necessarily. So I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Was that larger than the Vanport flood even?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. It might have been.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
I just want to give kudos to Jeff's staff because we, with our new election workers coming on and getting ID badges for the first time and being able to have access in and out, they have been invaluable. And Andrea and Alice and David and Adam, they've helped us so much, and I don't think they get enough recognition sometimes for all that they do on the back end of things. So thank you. Really do appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I will definitely pass that on. They do a good job of making me look good. So I appreciate them very much.
They're very responsive and gracious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other comments or anything for the good of the order? Well, thank you everyone for attending. The next meeting date is July 1st, 2024 at 9 o'clock, and we'll see you back here.
You may not have seen it yet, my email about.
No, you're not invited. You're a troublemaker.
I am.
Yes.
Would that be